So, hi everyone. Welcome to our Talking Tuesdays for April 18th. Ariana is going to introduce our speaker today.
Our speaker today is Sergeant Densil Samuda. He was raised in the north end of Hartford. He was part of the Hartford Police Department from 1988 to 2008. He was a police officer, detective, canine handler, and sergeant. He joined the CCSU Police Department in 2009, where he's been a police officer, detective, and detective sergeant. Currently, he is Patrol and Detective Division Supervisor.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So usually we just start off asking like what inspired you to become a police officer, be where you are today.
Okay, so I was born in the United Kingdom, and I came to America when I was 9. And I grew up in the north end of Hartford, but I grew up in the West Indian section of Hartford. My family is from Jamaica, West Indies, and so it was a West Indian household, traditional West Indian food and culture, stuff like that. And for the most part back then, the West Indian culture was, you go to school, and while you're in school, you work, and once you graduate high school, you get a full-time job and you work. So college wasn't really pushed, upon, the kids from the West Indian households. But I graduated from high school, and I did do 2 years of college at CCSU. I was working at St. Francis Hospital while I was going to school, the pharmacy department. And I had a close friend of mine, I used to call him my cousin. He was a close friend, and he was a cadet at the Hartford Police Department. And after being a cadet for 2 years, he went to the police academy and became a full-fledged police officer. And he was always telling me, come on, join the Hartford Police. But after a couple of years of working at the hospital and realizing that there wasn't much room for advancement, I decided to join the police department. So I applied, went through the academy, graduated, and started working as a police officer. After a couple of good years on the street, keeping busy and making arrests and stuff like that, I got promoted to detective, and did gangs and narcotics and all the fun stuff. And then I went to the canine unit, which was probably my favorite part of the job because you have a partner that doesn't talk back. And so after about 8 years of being a canine handler, I decided it's time to move up the ladder again. So I took the sergeant's test, and I was subsequently promoted to sergeant. So basically, what I was looking for becoming a police officer was a job that didn't require you to have a degree, because that means I would have to go back to school and finish. But at the same time, the job had plenty of room for upward mobility because of all the ranks and all the different divisions that they held. So once I became a sergeant, I was a sergeant for about 3 years. So police officers, when I got hired, were under, they call it hazardous duty. So which means you can retire after 20 years. You can start collecting a pension. So it was good. So I did my 20 years, and I retired. I was still relatively young, so I figured, what was I going to do? Of course, sometimes once a police officer, always a police officer. So I knew actually the chief that was here at the time at CCSU PD used to be my captain in the police academy in Hartford. So, he encouraged me to apply, and he hired me. And I've been here for the last 14 years.
Wow.
Excellent. I want to ask you, in your family, did other children grow up to want to join you in the police force?
Actually, no, I'm the only
You're the only one?
person in my entire family that's a police officer.
What's the most difficult aspect of being a police officer?
Probably seeing some of the bad things that you don't want to see. More so when I was officer in Hartford, there was a lot going on. You know, you saw a lot of, you know, death and child abuse and stuff like that, drug use. Here on campus, it's just seeing somebody that comes here to be a student and they either can't find their way or they get here and something happens and then they start to regress. You know, they start off as a good student, as a good person, and then 2 years into their being a student here, they start to regress. You know, drugs, alcohol, you know, mental illness.
And how do you deal with that? With, I don't know, like, I guess compartmentalizing the situation in your head.
For some reason, you know, I have a good family support system. My wife and my kids, they're great. And even the chief and the lieutenants, they're all great. So they help to keep me grounded and the other officers grounded when we do experience stuff like that. And you have to come to a realization that, you know, it's the nature of the job, that you're going to see things and you're going to learn things. And in order for you to continue doing the job effectively, you're going to have to deal with them in the appropriate manner.
You mentioned that, you know, sometimes some of the students are dealing with mental health issues. And I was just wondering if the department trains you all on how to handle those types of situations, because sometimes they're not very easily identified, and you might think, or to the regular person, they might seem like they're doing something wrong, but it's actually something else going on mental health wise.
Right. So throughout the academy training, and we have like a yearly or biannual training where we learn about, you know, different mental health illnesses. And basically our training is based on talking to, we have like clinicians and doctors come in and they give us information on mental illness and how to deal with them. And, you know, you look at the person as if they're your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, and you try to encourage them. You know, we always encourage them to get help. And if we see that they need immediate help, then we have the authority to have the person transported to a hospital and committed for a 72-hour hold. So it's all based on the interaction, and as a police officer, how dangerous you believe this person is to themselves and others. You know, sometimes you go to a dorm room and the person's depressed, but they have different reasons. They just lost a family member, or they just broke up with a girlfriend or boyfriend. And a lot of that, you know, is temporary stuff that, you know, but you have the person that's the schizophrenic or the chronically depressed, the suicidal, and those are the ones you have to engage more with them to see where they're at. Because if they're past a certain point, then you have to do some paperwork and have them sent to the hospital.
And how do you differentiate between what is, you know, like a passing depression versus more of a chronic type of depression?
Well, in talking to them, there's certain buzzwords, you know, and there's certain questions that you ask, and depending on the answer, then you feel, you know, it's, I'm not going to say it's like a 1 to 10 scale, but you know in your mind in interviewing these people that, okay, I think this person needs to go to the hospital based on what they, and we have to be able to articulate it in our reports. So it's not just, you know, you're transporting them because of what you think, and then you're done with them. You have to write a report, and you have to articulate in the report why you thought that this person needed to be transported.
I'm really glad that they do the training, because sometimes it's hard to tell, especially with kids on the spectrum.
Yeah.
With autism, and that kind of training that you're getting directly from the doctors is
Right.
great.
So, and the thing about autistic students, they'll tell you. You know, a lot of the students, when you talk to them, they'll tell you what their issue is, what they have mental health, they're suicidal or, you know, stuff like that. So they give you clues for you to work off of.
Is there anything us as students that we can do to make, to help support that training or to kind of see what's going on around?
Well, you know that a lot of you go to classes with these students. You know, they're your roommates, and just look. If you think something's wrong, then act on it. Talk to the person. Hey, what's going on? Can I get you some help? And if it gets to the point where it's out of your scope, then call a RA, your RD. You know, a lot of times we go to calls and we just end up referring the person to the Counseling and Wellness Center. You know, go to Counseling and Wellness. Half of them didn't even know it was on campus. You know, so go to Counseling and Wellness, talk to a counselor, and see how that works out. But as a friend, you know, like, you know, if somebody says, you know, your roommate or your close friend says, hey, I don't want to live anymore, that's a trigger word. You know, talk to them. Hey, you know, why? You know, how are you going to do it? You know, if they say, hey, as soon as you leave, I'm going to take a handful of pills. Now that's grounds for you to call the police and have them step in. And, you know, your friend might not like you for that, but you could be saving their life.
Right.
So don't be afraid to stand up for your friend or your relative if you think they're going to harm themselves or harm somebody else. Because at the end of the day, if something bad has happened, you're going to feel some kind of guilt if you knew you could have stepped in and intervened.
Is there a certain pattern that happens during say a semester, maybe during midterms or finals, where the scope of mental health is much higher, or the calls for it are much higher?
Usually, you know, towards the end of the school year, because, you know, the finals, you don't pass, you don't move on to the next grade, or you don't graduate, or you'll have some students that are going to graduate, but they don't know what's going to happen after graduation. Where do I go? What do I do? I don't have a job. You know, I got, you know. So in that case, you know, we always suggest go to a counselor, go to a career, go to one of the career fairs, you know, see what's going on, you know. Well, what do you like? Well, I don't like anything. You must like something. You like video games? Okay, well, you know, why don't you look at signing video games, stuff like that, you know. But, yeah, usually towards the end of the semesters when the grades are going to be coming out, you know. But some people, they come in with it. They come in from high school, from grade school. So it's already there, and you just have to handle it as it is.
Is there any advice you can give to someone who's interested in this field and becoming?
Sure. Right now, the field for being a police officer is wide open. There is probably 50, 60 police departments in the state of Connecticut, including CCSU, that are looking to hire police officers. For the majority of the police departments, all you need is a high school diploma or a GED, and to be a person of good character, not have any felony or misdemeanor arrest. Some police departments won't take you if you have a lot of traffic tickets, speeding, and stuff like that, infractions. So, you know, so you want to be able to show that you've been a stand-up person since you graduated high school. And I always tell people the first couple of years as a police officer are going to be your roughest, because you're at the bottom of the totem pole. You get all the horrible assignments. You're working midnights. You know, you're working weekends. You're babysitting people at the hospital because you're the junior officer and stuff like that. But as you get time on the job, that's when all the perks open up. You become a detective. You know, you can work the front desk Monday through Friday, weekends, holidays off, special assignments, stuff like that. So we call it doing your time. You have to do your time as a rookie and as a police officer that doesn't have as much time on the job as a veteran officer. Once you become a veteran, a good veteran, things open up for you.
So, as far as the university role as a police officer, you're saying that it's good for them to have a few years at least in the police office?
No, not necessarily.
Sorry,
No, for
as a police
CCSU,
officer.
CCSU hires certified, so people already been a police officer. And we're also willing to hire somebody that was never a police officer, send them through the academy, have them trained, and have them come on board. So you don't necessarily have to have police experience to be a CCSU police officer.
Okay.
A lot of that, we call it lateral hiring or hiring a certified, is born out of the need to get police officers on board right away. So if you're, for instance, if you're a new officer, first of all, you're in the academy for 6 months, and then you're on field training for another 3 months. So that's 9 months that you have an officer that's not really an officer, But if you hired a certified officer, you could bring them on board, 30 days of training, and boom, they're on their own. So it's a fiscal decision. Anybody here want to be a police officer? We're hiring. Got to be 21.
Do you have any female officers at the CCSU police station?
Yes, we have 3. So we have one that's been here almost 10 years. And then we have 2 that they were veteran officers in other police departments. And they've been here for almost a year. So, yeah, we're trying to hire males, females, black, white, Hispanic,
Diverse.
very diverse, yes.
What is your favorite thing about your job?
Honestly, the community interaction. I like to, when I'm on the beat, I like to walk around, walk through the different departments, say hello to people. I mean, some of you seen me here before. I came in a couple of times and talked to people as I was passing by, and just making friends. I think that if you come out and you talk to people, if you watch the news media and TV and some of these other entities, they always paint the police in a bad light. Well, it's not actually so. It's actually the opposite. That police officers are out there every day doing good things, doing good things, but nobody's filming that. They're just filming the bad things, and that's what you're going to see on the internet. So yeah, community interaction is one of my favorite things to do. Plus walking around, going to offices, I get my steps in.
Good workout.
It is.
How many steps do you get in a day?
On a good day, I get about 6,000 at work.
Wow, that's a
On a
lot.
bad day when I'm, because I work sometimes in the office and sometimes out on the road. So when I'm in the office, I give me 2,500.
That's still good.
Okay. Something.
You said that growing up, college wasn't really pushed in your family. Did you have a mentor that helped you through school, or did you kind of have to figure it out all by yourself?
I had to figure it out all by myself. Yeah, so I paid for my college myself. And actually, when I was going to school, I was taking sociology because I wanted to know what the world was about. Then I took some criminology, and I'm like, that fits more where I want to go. So.
And did anyone else in your family follow in those footsteps? Did you inspire anyone to go to college since you had gone to college?
Not in my immediate family, no. I know some of my other cousins, they went to college. And they ended up going, I had a cousin I'm really close to. He worked in juvenile detention for 20 years. My wife, who I encouraged, she went to corrections. She did 22 years in corrections. So my kids, they're like, I want to be a cop.
They want to?
They don't want to be, no. I got a son, he just turned 18. When I talked to him about the amount of, because he's all about, hey, I got to get me these sneakers, he'll go cut the grass, so, But I told him, hey, you could be making good money if you just became a cop. He goes, okay, I don't want to be a cop, but I think he'll change his mind. I don't mind to be a cop. So.
Did you ever have aspirations for any other career besides being a cop?
Actually, no. It. Since I hit my early 20s, I was out on it. Yeah. It's just a good all-around job, you know, because you are helping people. You're being a positive role model to people. You know, I mean, you're helping to clean up the streets if you have to. You know, so
How many years have you done in between CCSU and when you were a police officer?
34.
34 total?
Yeah. So I'll do another 6 more and I can retire again.
Oh, wow.
Again,
Yeah.
you can retire more than once.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Once with
Once with Hartford,
with the
right.
state, and then the other one will be from CCSU.
Right.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
I have taken a couple of criminology classes since being here, and I had seen like some of the. I know we have like coffee with a cop sometimes here. What are
Yes.
some other like community holding? Do you guys have any other like community events or like things that you connect with the community more directly, or is it just by just wandering around saying, hey?
Hey, the majority of it is wandering around saying, hey, we always tell our officers to go and engage. If you're walking through a dorm and there's a dorm meeting going on or IRC or stuff going on at Rec Central, you know, go out there, talk to the students, talk to the staff, you know. It's hard to do a lot because between answering calls for service and administrative stuff like that, you know, we're geared, majority of our resources are geared toward patrol, which means we gotta walk buildings, we gotta patrol the garages to make sure you all are safe. And in the interim, we'll do the, you know, walking through the buildings and saying hello and stuff like that, and answering questions. So if you ever have a question, you see a police officer, don't hesitate to ask them. They'll be more than glad to answer your questions.
I wanted to ask you about your training with dogs with the canine,
Yes.
because that sounds like fun. But I wanted to ask you, how long is the training, and then how long are you working with them? And then when it's time to part, how do you deal with that? Do you still visit them, or?
Actually, you take the dog home. The dog is yours when you retire.
Oh,
Unfortunately for me, my first dog, so the training, we go through the Connecticut State Police in Hartford. We went through the state police, they have a training class. It's 3 months. You get a dog that the police department or the city of Hartford will buy you a dog. And then you go to training, you train Monday through Friday. A lot of the stuff you see on TV, like the guy in the bike suit with the sleeve, we all had to do all of that, you know. And then after 3 months, you graduate and you're on the streets doing your dog. Like I said, the dog's part of your family, so you take him home every day. And my first dog, he got old, so we replaced him with another dog. He lasted about 3 years. He got cancer. He died. Yeah, and then he died right at the time I was getting promoted to sergeant. So in Hartford, as a sergeant, you're not supposed to have a canine. So they were like, "You're all done." I'm like, okay.
Oh.
But yeah, so they're part of your family. You take them home every day, and you know, kids play with them. And
I bet they were protected with the kids too.
they are. They're very protected. They're protected of the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a he or a she? And what was
It was the majority. I only know one police department that's used a she.
Oh,
But they're all males for the most part. Yeah.
what was his name?
My first one was Conan. The second one was Zeus.
Do you name them?
Yeah, you can. So what happens? Something depending on how old the dog is. You know, some of the older dogs came with names already. So kind of, if you want to change the name, it was just a little, you know, little transition of like a couple weeks before they started recognizing the new name.
At the airport on my way here from Florida, I was there for a week recently. I just got back on Friday. They had a dog, and they would have us walk in twos,
Mm-hmm.
and then the dog would walk like this, zigzagging,
Yeah.
and they had a fan going. So are they sniffing for drugs, I imagine, or?
Either drugs or bomb material. Yeah, depending on the dog. Some dogs you can train to sniff for both, but where I was trained with the state police, they never really advocated that because you kind of want your dog focused on one thing and not, so yeah. So dog training was fun. You're out there in the winter, the rain, the snow, the sleet, the cold, because that's when you get called out to do searches. It's never a bright sunny day, about 60 degrees. Yeah, it's always raining or snowing or cold, and that's how you train. Yeah, you do.
What's it like at the academy?
Police academy, it depends on which one you go to. So there are several throughout the state. Some, like Hartford, has their own police academy, but the smaller towns like West Hartford and like Bloomfield, they'll send you to the Post Academy in Meriden, which is the Municipal Police Academy, or they'll see if Hartford has a spot for you, or they'll see if Bridgeport or Haven has a spot in their academy. So it all depends on availability. But for the most part, it's like being in the military. A lot of yes sir, no sir, running and, a lot of physical fitness and, a lot of academic work. But then there's the fun stuff, the shooting, the defensive driving, the defensive tactics and stuff like that. So, and depending on what academy you go to, I think Post, which is in Meriden, we call it Post, it's called the Police Officer Standards and Training Council. And their academy is overnight. So you go there, you stay there Monday through Friday, and then go home on the weekends and come back on Monday again. The state police, their academy is an overnight academy too, Monday through Friday.
Are they located in Hartford or?
State police is in Meriden, right next to the Municipal Academy. So the Municipal Academy takes officers from all over the state, and then state police only do the troopers, and they're side by side. They're starting to change now and get away from the overnight, so that way they can accommodate people with families. Because it's hard for a single mother or a single father to go away, Monday through Friday. Come back home on the weekends, depending on what kind of training is going on. So they're starting to change their curriculum to make it more easier for people that can't stay the night, make it more family oriented.
That just gave me another question. How would the process go for people who want to be teachers at academies like that?
Okay, so what happens is that the Post Academy, they're usually made up of retired police officers. So as you go through your police career, you take different classes that are taught by the state, and they have a class called Method of Instruction. And what it does is it basically makes you a teacher of certain police entities. Like you could become an instructor in firearms. You could be an instructor in ethics. Anything that the police officer has to learn, you could become a certified instructor in that. And once you don't have to have retired from the police department, but once you have enough time under your belt and enough teaching under a certain criteria, if the state academy has an opening, you can apply for it and they'll hire you and you just be a instructor in the academy.
You mentioned ethics trainings. What do those look like?
It's basically just what to do and what not to do. Don't do this, don't do that. That's ethically wrong. Which a lot of the stuff people know every day anyway, but they just try to instill it mind. You don't do this, you don't do that, you know.
Is there a separate number to block you guys versus the regular, the state, not the state, but,
911?
yeah. If you have
Yeah.
your own number, right?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's on our website, and I don't know if any of you have the Live Safe app.
Oh, I don't know.
Live Safe, it's called Live Safe.
What is it?
It's an app that we have been promoting, and what it does, it has several features on it where you can call the police, you can call CCSU police directly. Yeah, you can take videos of, you know, stuff going on and send it directly to the police, send photographs, stuff like that.
It's that app where you can send your location to like an officer in case you're worried about something happening. And then
Right.
if something happens and someone knows your location, right? That's the same app.
Yeah, yeah. You can do. See, this is basically how it looks, and it's got resources on it. It's got a feature called Safe Walk where you can give your GPS coordinates to a friend and they can track you to make sure that if you're going from A to B, you go from A to B without, you know, veering off and then, you know, they don't know where you are. It's a good app. You can send anonymous tips. You can report crimes anonymously. You know, sometimes if you're somewhere where you can't talk and you can get on this app and you can send us messages, let us know what's going on.
Is the app specifically only for CCSU or for all police departments?
It's for all police. I don't want to say all police departments. It's for all entities that want to subscribe to it. But what happens is the one that we have is specifically for CCSU students and staff. So New Britain could do one. They could have their own Live Safe for residents and stuff like that, you know. But this one is specifically all the tips, all the photos, all the videos go right to the police, CCSU police department.
I like the one for students when they're like alone at night, walking from the library to wherever.
So you can call for an escort. I always tell students and staff, if you find yourself at the library, you were studying hard and it's 9 o'clock, I don't know what time they close, but it's 9 o'clock and you look outside, it's pitch black and your dorm's on the other side of campus or your car's on the other parking garage, you can call and ask for an escort. It's based upon availability if you have an officer. We also have a student patrol that would come by and pick you up and bring you to your car. It's not to be used like on a daily basis, like, you know, like they're your own personal taxi. But it's there if you get caught out late at night or you don't feel safe, you can call and they'll come to you. All in all, it's a great job. It's very rewarding. You just got to be willing to pay your dues in the beginning and then willing to do the work. And, you know, there is some, you know, there is a downside where you're dealing with people that dislike cops, rude, and discourteous towards you. But, you know, like I tell everybody, you know, these people aren't worth your paycheck. They're not worth your livelihood. You know, it's not worth losing your job over this individual.
Is that culture different here because you're on campus? You get more respect from?
We do, and I think one of the reasons why we do is because we're very professional here. Number one, there's a lot of accountability. Number two, we all wear body cameras when we're on patrol. So when we're interacting, we go to a call, we have to turn them on. And number three, we work closely with student conduct. And student conduct and student affairs have been very instrumental in, you know, if you're disrespectful, if you're rude, they'll handle it. You know, you might not be able to arrest a person for it, but you tell them, hey, I'm going to write a report and I'm going to send it up to student conduct. Now you got to deal with them.
Well, I have no questions.
I close out with questions unless there's anything else you want to.
No, just if you want a job where, you know, you can make decent money and there's always room for upward mobility, depending on which police department you go to, then police works for you. You know, just come in, be courteous, be kind, and do your job.
I guess I have a question. Being that we're in LALCC right now,
Yes.
obviously, like, we see that, like, people of color are, like, disproportionately affected by things like police brutality and stuff. Being a cop yourself, what do you think about, like, the way to sort of deal with that reality, and how do you see that really getting better, and, you know, just dealing with that?
Okay, well, more training of the officers, more sensitivity. And, you know, when you're dealing with somebody, you know, you look at them as if, hey, they're a family member. You know, people look at police brutality as that's all cops do. The instances of police brutality are very, 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 very low. It's just that they get so much media attention, you know, and unfortunately, the media attention that they get has taken away the focus from the other, you know, crimes that are going on. So, it's training, it's hiring the right people, it's supervision. You know, you have to have supervisors that are out there that know people in the community that will tell you what's going on. You know, if you have an officer that's always being rude or stuff like that. So it's a myriad of things. But I believe the best thing is training and supervision.
Yeah. And what about, do you ever think about, like, the criminal justice system, just in general, and the fact that, you know, people of color are, you know, pretty much discriminated against in the entire criminal justice system. So be it, like, in court or something, or just dealing with heavier charges, or just worse outcomes from different situations and crimes and stuff.
First and foremost, I read a quote from Martin Luther King, and it's not an exact quote. I can't remember exactly the number was, but he said that he was somewhere down south. I think it was in Alabama or something like that. And he said, basically, minorities make up like 25% of the population in the state, but they commit 70% of the crimes. Stop committing crimes. That's the bottom line. Stop committing crimes. Of course, you're going to realize that a lot of the neighborhoods, the bad neighborhoods, who live there, minorities, blacks and Hispanics. And those are usually the people that are going to get locked up. You go to West Hartford, not a lot of people getting arrested in West Hartford. Not a lot of shootings, not a lot of stabbings. But you go to Hartford, and it's an everyday occurrence. So how can you not lock up minorities when the community, they make up 90% of the community?
Why do you think there is that correlation between, you know, higher rates of crime in Black communities?
I think it's a lack of education, broken homes, you know, parents that aren't willing to raise their kids, you know, single mothers, single dads. I think society as a whole doesn't help, you know, when you are catching juveniles in stolen cars, and all you're doing is bringing them home to their parents or giving them a summons and saying, show up to court on this day. That's not helping the system, especially after this is the third or fourth time you've caught the juvenile in a stolen car. So consequences, there has to be stricter consequences. The community as a whole has, you know, they say it takes a village to raise a child. That's what these communities should be doing. And they've gotten away from that. It's more don't tell my child what to do, or if you, hey, I saw your son doing this, well, you should be minding your business. So, it's community too.
Yeah, I do find it disappointing a lot of times to sort of like blame those communities for committing the crimes and everything when really they're in this culture where in this systemic all these systemic things adding to their lives where they are worse off. There's different political tools like redlining and stuff that makes it more difficult for these people, these kids, to grow up in a good environment. I do think it's a real shame that these communities have higher crime rates, and I think there's a lot of like external digging to do there.
There is, and there's a lot of internal digging to do too. There are a lot of community organizations out there that have tried to intervene in the community, but to no avail. You have a community organization in Hartford called, I think it's Mothers Against Violence, and they show up at all these crime scenes, and and they try to talk to people and stuff like that. But what they say just falls on deaf ears to certain people in the community, to the bad element. So people are out there trying to help the communities. There's certain people in the community just don't want help.
Yeah, I mean, I think at a certain point when there's people that like are hungry, don't have money, don't have a roof over their head, it doesn't really matter what you're gonna say to them. They need other support than just telling them not to do crime and
there's
to give them
banks,
advice and education.
There's state welfare assistance.
Yeah.
There are hundreds of jobs out there. They might not be the job you want, but if you're that hungry and you want to feed your family, there are jobs out there. So I mean, there are community organizations out there that are giving away stuff. Salvation Army, so there's all these charitable places that give coats to kids in the winter and stuff like that. So those people just have to make an effort.
Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.